Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Changelog, where we go over the changes that happen on Solana week by week. My name is Jacob. I'm joined today by John, and let's get started. So this past week, you may have noticed that 1.16 was actually released onto mainnet. So we had the upgrade from 1.14 previously to 1.16, which brings a whole bunch of new features to come to look at coming soon. Like, for example, extend program, confidential transfer. There's some encryption stuff that's coming out. There's a lot of stuff to look forward to. So, John, what are you looking forward to the most in 1.16?
I'm looking most forward to confidential transfers and seeing what use cases that brings about on Solana. Can you tell us a little bit more about confidential transfers?
Yeah, so confidential transfers were covered last week on the changelog, and we kind of went through like how they're being built. You can now do them with CLI and DevNet. They're going to be 3 transactions instead of 1. So there are some nuances with it, but it's something that's coming soon in an upcoming feature gate on Solana. Moving on to this week's kind of proposal, we're going to go back to the sRFCs and talk about them for a moment. So, what are sRFCs? sRFCs are Solana requests for comments. What this really is, it's very similar to if you're familiar with RFCs in Rust or ERCs in the EVM world, but it's based off of community adoption of whether or not becomes a real thing. So, if you want to use sRFCs, what you do is you kind of like think about what kind of standard do I want to make? For example, there's a token metadata interface standard in here, or a security token standard, or CPI events. There's a lot of different standards that I'm talking about here. If you're interested in coming up with one and basically getting community adoption of that standard, you can propose it on the sRFCs on the Solana forum. So that's forum.solana.com, and use that as a place to get feedback on your standard, jumpstart your community adoption, and make it a real thing. So moving on to the next thing, what are the commits that you found this week, John, that were interesting?
So one interesting commit for this week is that Joe from Solana Labs added a function to replace an empty account with an upgradable program on feature activation. This is in support of an on-chain program for feature activations. So in the future, feature activations will be done through an on-chain program called the Feature Gate program, also being worked on by Joe from Labs. So if you have questions about it, feel free to reach out to Joe.
Yeah, and also you can join the discussion on the issue. It's issue 32780. What this issue has is the proposed solution for feature activations. I would like to note that feature activations are done today via a program, but in the future, they want to make it to where you can have multiple people voting on a feature. You can have a multi-sig activating a feature. It's basically making the feature gates more mature in the ecosystem as we grow, especially with Fire Dancer coming online sometime soon. We have Radiance, we have SIG. There's a lot of things that would need this to exist before they start coming online. All right, moving on to the resource of the week. So we're going to go back to an old resource, but still a good resource. That is the Solana StackExchange. So I kind of want to touch on this because a lot of people are saying like, okay, everybody's using AI. We're using ChatGPT, we're using Google Bard or whatever to look up your answers and understand and search for fixing your errors on your program, new questions that you didn't think of when you were starting development. Everybody's doing that right now. But where are those answers coming from? They're coming from Solana StackExchange. They're coming from articles on Google, but mostly Solana StackExchange. So if you want to help improve those new AI chatbots like ChatGPT, Cursor, whatever, contribute to Solana StackExchange. This helps our ecosystem grow and makes it to where you, in the future, when you're developing on Solana and you run into an error, you do not have to go look it up or chew glass by reading the code. You can just continue with your general development cycle of I Googled it once, or I ChatGPT'd it once, or oh, Cursor just gave me the answer anyways. So definitely check this out. If you remember, we are still considered like a public beta. So there's a number of different metrics that we try to reach. We have met some of them. Recently, we've met the 5 users with 3,000 plus rep. We still haven't met answer ratio, questions per day, or percentage answered. Please help us get this propagated within the community and contribute back so we can help all developers in the future. John is actually number 2 on the Solana StackExchange and rep, and he's also number 1 is also named John, just slightly different spelling. So it's kind of fun like that. But yeah, do you have anything else for us, John?
Yeah, so for anyone that has questions, feel free to use StackExchange as a resource. And even if you just find answers helpful, please upvote it. That would be super helpful as well.
And finally, we still have hyperdrive going on. So what kind of things do we have left before the final deadlines for hyperdrive, John?
Well, Hyperdrive runs until October 15th. You still have time to start building if you haven't already. And if you have been building, it's a good time to start working on your presentations. Next week, you can also join the office hours if you want help with some presentation practices. Some of the DevRel team will be there on the Hyperdrive Discord to help you out and provide some feedback. And you can register on Discord.
Right. So if you're interested in contributing back or helping out with or have questions about Hyperdrive, go join the Hyperdrive Discord where we can help you out with office hours, or you can go find your team. Also, if you haven't already, please make sure you join social with your product. Like start talking about your product online. We find the most successful products in every single global online hackathon talk about their products early on Twitter, or X as they like to call it now, Instagram, whatever. Just start being loud about your product early. It's always good. And those are the products that usually win the hackathons because they get noticed and the judges look for that project because they saw it on their social media.
And that's it for this week's Changelog. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you. Adios.